No, I haven't just been to the garden centre and bought heaps of plants, even though I have heaps. It's a trick for keeping your garden looking amazing with no horrible gaps for as long as you can. So let me tell you all about it. So this does genuinely feel like I've went to the plant shop and I've just got all of these awesome plants to plant. And the thing is, I've always had these. They've always been in the garden, but they've been planted in the garden deliberately. And I now get to move them, and that was always my purpose. Think of it like this. Right now, the garden is crazy colourful because it's full of spring bulbs. I've got alliums, tulips. I've not got many daffodils left, but I've got all of those sort of spring bulb type things that have filled the garden with colour. If I haven't done any forward planning, it's going to start looking really bare soon because these are on their last legs and they'll start passing. So that's why I've got these plants. I've deliberately brought on lots of these little plants that I knew would survive in the spring weather and they would happily bulk up, get bigger and start flowering, so that I can then move them to fill any gaps I've got. And that's one of the big things about gardening that you don't often hear people talking about when they're all about sowing seeds, because that's an annual type thing. And this is just simply the cycle of gardening. And this is something you've been watching us do for years in this garden. You'll see we've always got viola and primrose, calendula, dianthus. You'll see we always have lots and lots of all these little kind of filler plants all around the garden. It's not a case that we just grow them in the greenhouse for when they're needed somewhere. They're plants that we grow on in our garden, and some of them might have been in that spot for years. But it means we know we've got all these little fillers that we can then move around when we get those gaps. For instance, the big planter at the head of the drive, or even the new bed that Kate nicknamed Eli's bit on the side. Those were full of spring bulbs. But the bulbs passed, the flowers have passed, in some cases the leaves have gone, and it's been time to have a real good tidy up, and it's left some massive gaps that we don't like. So giving it a tidy up, we can see those gaps. Now we've got all these plants that we know will do well. They've been brought on in different parts of our garden that now are doing really well and are full, so we can take them out of there. Because, you know, it's not going to affect the planting in that bit of the garden because that's now really filling up, or it's about to get its summer planting in place. And it means we can make things look a little bit better. We've got some violas of different colours, there's some calendula, some of these salvia, just filling where there were gaps from where we tidied up. And it won't be here permanently, or it won't even be its big summer display, but it's that continuous cycle. So you don't get those really depressing periods where the garden looks a bit bare and horrible, because you're always thinking in this cycle of the garden. Nothing ever needs to be a one-hit wonder. Every plant in your garden has got the opportunity to be a star. Maybe not in the spot it's in, but maybe somewhere else. And obviously, the very last thing to do whenever you move any plants is a really good water, because these little guys have just had a bit of a shock. How often have you seen pink dianthus in this planter? And now you're seeing white. That one was a little one that was in one of our hanging pots on the fence that Kate brought over here because we had the gap here, and she knew these guys do well and they survive. And now we've got this gorgeous flower instead of a gap. You'll see that going right along the fence. We fill in gaps, you'll see odd combinations of planting because it wasn't the original plan. We had the gap, we've moved something from somewhere else in the garden. So here's a wee thought for you then. Remember all of those daffodils I grew for the spring show? Well, the thing is, I cut those blooms for the show and it left me with just the plants and the leaves. Or maybe you've got lots of daffodils and general spring bulbs all over the garden like us, and it'll look a bit like this. But what are you going to do when there's nothing? Because it won't be long now and we'll be cutting all these leaves off and it'll be blank. So here you go then. You know our garden well. What do you think we're going to put in here to replace all of that? Thinking about the season coming up. And you saw me put the dahlias in here. But did you notice the plants that I've just spoken about for putting in the gaps, for filling the gaps? It's the plants that had been in these pots. They're now filling all the gaps in the back garden and the side of the house. And you can absolutely bet some of this has either already been moved to fill a gap and maybe a plant's died, or it'll get moved at some point when we're changing things up. So remember that then. You don't need to go out and buy lots of plants every time there's a gap. And you don't need to have those depressing seasonal gaps in your garden. Just a little bit of forward thinking, the odd extra little filling in plant here and there as you go. So the next time you're planting out some plants, maybe add 1 or 2 extras in any of those little spots, because you know at some point they'll be really strong little plants and you'll have a gap they can go in somewhere. So while we're talking about all the little tips about filling gaps and prepping for filling gaps, let me show you my absolute top tip, and it's in action here. So our fence bed is very seasonal. It's something we're working on and we're changing, but it's obviously been full of daffodils. So I couldn't really plant anything new in there because it was chocker full. And now you can see it's got poppies and geraniums and anemones and all sorts. So again, those gaps aren't there at this point, but they will be, and I'm thinking about it. But also, a lot of the things we had in here earlier on was quite low. So what we did was we've put in some nice contrasting colours that are different heights. You can see here and even this. But this is probably my top secret tip for your garden to keep it looking amazing and give you options. I'm going to bring you in because one of the benefits of all of this foliage is it hides pots. So if you've got gaps but you've nothing to plant in there yet, or you just can't get planted in there yet, you can actually put plants in pots in those gaps and they can be hidden by all the foliage that's already there. So it gives you that instant hit, the plant, the height, the colours, what have you, but gives you a bit of time to get yourself organised and get going. And bonus, when it does come time to get all of this planted, you've got super acclimatised plants ready to go. It's all about planning for the future. And that's what we're going to do soon. We're going to talk lots about the whole planning of the garden, the planning of your beds, how you make it all work, how you design your garden. So I'll see you for that one very soon, folks. See ya!